Kentucky fans, let's be honest, this game had no business being that stressful. This was supposed to be a clean first round win, survive and advance, move on, and instead it turned into a full-on overtime scare. But when the pressure got real, when the starters needed help, and when this season was hanging in the balance, Kentucky's bench stepped in and saved the night. So today, we're doing what every die-hard fan wants to do after a game like this. We are ranking the top 3 bench heroes from Kentucky's win over Santa Clara, and we're rating them 1 through 10 based on impact, efficiency, defense, and who came through in the biggest March moments. Because after a game like this, it's not just about who played well. It's about who earned more minutes, who may have forced a rotation change, and who might have just become impossible to keep off the floor in the next round. First, the setup. Kentucky survived Santa Clara, 89-84 in overtime. And make no mistake, this was a real upset scare. Santa Clara had Kentucky right where they wanted them, and it took a miracle half-court buzzer beater from Otega Owe just to force overtime. That tells you everything about how close this game was to becoming a disaster. But once this thing got to overtime, Kentucky's bench helped flip the script. This became a defensive grind, and the non-starters gave Kentucky exactly what it needed. The Wildcats finished with 11 team blocks, and 2 of the 3 bench players we're talking about were right in the middle of that defensive wall. So these ratings are not about empty stats. They're about who stabilized the game, who made winning plays, and who stepped up when Kentucky absolutely had to have it. My number 1 bench hero in this game is Mouhamed Dioubate, and I've got him at a 9.5 out of 10. This was not a normal bench performance. This was a secret starter kind of performance. Dioubate finished with 17 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 3 blocks in 32 minutes. And that minute total jumps right off the page. He played 32 minutes off the bench, which was more than double the time of starter Andrea Jelavic. At that point, we're not really talking about a reserve who had a nice night. We're talking about a guy who played a major role in deciding the game. And he did it efficiently. He went 6 of 8 from the floor, which is 75%, and he was a perfect 4 for 4 from the free throw line. That matters in a pressure game. No wasted possessions, no bad volume, no forcing things that weren't there. He gave Kentucky efficient offense exactly when Kentucky needed somebody off the bench to settle things down. What makes Diobate's night even better is that it wasn't just about scoring. He gave you 8 rebounds and 3 blocks too. So this wasn't one-dimensional production. He helped on the glass, he protected the rim, and he gave Kentucky real two-way value in a game that was getting more physical and more chaotic as it went on. And I think this is where the real fan debate starts. Is Dioubate basically a starter now? Because if a guy comes off the bench, plays 32 minutes, scores 17 points, grabs 8 rebounds, blocks 3 shots, and does it on elite efficiency, how much longer are we supposed to act like he's just another bench piece? My opinion is simple. Whether the lineup changes or not, he has absolutely earned starter level trust. If Kentucky wants his best players on the floor more consistently in the next round, Dioubate has made a very serious case. The only reason I stop at a 9.5 instead of giving him a 10 is that he did have 2 turnovers, and the game overall was still messy. But when you look at total impact, minute load, efficiency, and all-around production, he was the best bench player on the floor. Kentucky fans are going to talk all week about whether he belongs in the starting lineup. And honestly, I think that's a fair conversation now. At number 2, I've got Brandon Garrison with a 9.0 out of 10. This guy was the human eraser in this game. Garrison finished with 10 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, and an unbelievable 6 blocks in just 25 minutes. 6 blocks in a tournament game, off the bench, in only 25 minutes is ridiculous. That is the kind of defensive impact that completely changes how the other team wants to attack. And in a game where Kentucky desperately needed answers on defense, Garrison gave them. He also shot 83.3% from the floor, so this wasn't just a defense-only performance. He gave Kentucky efficient offense too. When he got opportunities, he finished them. He made his minutes count on both ends of the floor. And then you add in the emotional plays. He had the vicious poster slam, and he had the emphatic jam that helped seal the overtime win. Those were not just highlight plays for social media. Those were momentum-changing moments in a game Kentucky absolutely had to grab control of late. Now, the reason he lands just behind Dioubate is pretty obvious. The free throw shooting was a problem. He went 0 for 3 at the line, and that creates a real conversation going forward. If games get tight late, can teams use that against Kentucky? Is there a Hacker Garrison risk if he's on the floor in key spots? That's not overreacting. That's a real concern in March. But here's my take. When you block 6 shots, rebound, score efficiently, and give your team that kind of defensive presence, you are still bringing massive winning value. The free throws matter, but 6 blocks can erase a lot of mistakes. And I think Kentucky fans should be asking a bigger question too. Is Brandon Garrison one of the best rim protectors in the country right now? Because that kind of shot blocking performance in this setting is not normal. So I'm comfortable putting him at a 9.0 out of 10. Huge defensive value, huge energy, huge momentum. If the free throw line had been even a little cleaner, this rating would be pushing even higher. At number 3, Cam Williams gets a 7.5 out of 10. Now, if you only looked at the basic stat line, you might think this is a small impact game. He had 3 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 1 steal, 0 blocks, and played 10 minutes. But Kentucky fans know better than that because his biggest contribution came in one of the game's biggest moments. Williams hit a massive 30-foot three-point jumper when the offense had stalled. And that detail is everything. This was not some random shot in a comfortable stretch of the game. Kentucky needed somebody to break the tension, create a spark, and deliver in a pressure moment, and he did exactly that. That's why his rating holds up even without a huge box score. In March, one huge shot can completely change the feel of a game. One fearless moment can stop things from spiraling. Williams gave Kentucky that kind of moment, and he did it while shooting 100% from the floor in his March Madness debut. And he also added a steal, which matters when you only play 10 minutes. He was efficient, he took care of the ball, and he did not commit a turnover. That matters in a game where every possession felt massive. Now, some fans may say 7.5 is too generous for 3 points. I don't agree because this rating is not about volume. It's about leverage. It's about timing. It's about difficulty. And a 30-footer in a high-pressure tournament game carries real weight. The bigger conversation here is whether Mark Pope should trust Cam Williams with more clutch minutes going forward. Because when a player steps into that kind of environment and takes that shot without hesitation, that tells you something about his confidence and his poise. My opinion is that he earned more trust Maybe not a massive role increase overnight, but definitely more consideration when Kentucky needs a bucket in a tense moment. He looked comfortable when a lot of players would have tightened up. So no, this was not a takeover game statistically, but it was absolutely a cold-blooded contribution, and it mattered. When you step back and look at the whole picture, Kentucky's bench was one of the main reasons this season is still alive. Dioubate gave you the all-around production and the starter-level workload. Garrison gave you elite rim protection and huge momentum plays. Cam Williams gave you a pressure release shot when the offense badly needed one. Together, that is a bench group that delivers scoring, rebounding, defense, efficiency, and real March toughness in a game that could have gone the other way very easily. Overall, the bench gets an 8.7/10 for this game. It's not a perfect score because there was still some turnovers, and Garrison's free throw issues are a real concern moving forward. But if we're grading this strictly on impact, pressure moments, and who helped rescue Kentucky from an early exit scare, this bench deserves serious credit. And I'll say it plainly, in this game, Kentucky's bench closers look better than some of the starters. That's going to be one of the biggest debates coming out of this win. Now, I want to hear from you. Who was your number one bench hero against Santa Clara? Was it Dioubate with the 17 and 8? Was it Garrison with the 6 blocks and the monster dunks? Or was it Cam Williams for drilling the biggest shot of his young Kentucky career? And answer this too. Does Dioubate need to be in the starting lineup for the Sweet 16 after this performance? Because I think that conversation is getting louder fast. Drop your 1 to 10 clutch factor rating for Cam Williams' 30-footer in the comments and let me know whether Garrison's rim protection outweighs the free throw concern going forward. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and stay locked in, because if Kentucky keeps getting this kind of bench impact, the ceiling of this team changes in a hurry. Kentucky survived the scare. Now the big question is whether these bench heroes just forced a rotation shift for the next game.